Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Whalen. Oh, so be honest with me. Who's your favorite character in Rick and Morty? Is it Bird Person?
It's Bird Person. So, to say that I'm disappointed in this person would be an understatement. Mom, if you're listening, you were supposed to be on this episode. That was going to be our special guest, was my mama. And,
yeah.
But that's okay. My aunt came into town, and tomorrow, relative to this recording, is my papa's birthday. My grandpa's birthday, and they're there to celebrate. So Mom didn't want to waste her time with us, and I guess I get it.
I mean, that would have been cool. I mean, I've had my mom on, so that would have been cool to see how your mom she would probably run circles around us.
Well, she would have. And here's how I know this for a fact is when she came to visit a week or so ago for our baby shower, I had to finish the Two Towers, and she was watching it with me, and it was kind of like watching a movie with you, because she would say the line before they would say it at certain points. And I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, she knows these movies, man, back and forth. But she did send me some interesting information of questions I had about the Green City, and about the dead men of Dunharrow. So I may read some excerpts later, because I really love these movies, but I don't know the lore, you know.
Yeah.
Also,
new lore just dropped.
And also, like, when people, like, I watched a little bit of that video you had sent today, and when they're in Gondor, he calls it something different.
Minas Tirith.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, so is Gondor... I know we haven't really started yet, but is... You know what? Let's officially start. Let's get that poster up for our YouTube people, and let's get started.
Yes. So, okay. So, everyone, if you've been living under a rock for the last 2 weeks, today is our finale of our 3-part series on Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, which I said last week when we had our buddy Alex on. This one's my favorite of the 3. Now here's an interesting fact though, because I did tell someone this. Even though Return of the King is my favorite, I could always put on Fellowship and enjoy it.
Okay.
But anyway, sidebar. Speaking about Alex, he and Emily were in town last week, and I was telling him how his episode has half the views of part 1.
I know, it's so sad.
And he was like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, man. I guess our audience really just doesn't like you."
It's so mean.
He was like, apparently so, man.
That's not why. I think they saw how little we actually know about the first one, and they're like, they're not going to nail the second one.
We're only clicking on this because it's Lord of the Rings. Oh, they don't know anything. We're not going to watch part 2.
Man. Oh man, he didn't even know that Minas Tirith is Gondor and Gondor is Minas Tirith. Like, what's going on? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm continuing with the series, everyone. So in case you haven't seen these movies, which I think is impossible, with Return of the King, this is sort of what Jeremy mentioned in week 1 of the hero's journey, in both literal and not metaphorical, the return part of the journey, which is literally the return of the king to the throne of Gondor, and the hobbits finally returning home after their year and 1 month journey to get from the Shire to Mordor.
Right.
So where do you think we should begin with this, man? Because this movie is really interesting because we get, as you said, we do. I feel like of the 3 movies, we get the most lore in this one.
It's so much. I mean, we can start where the movie starts, which is really interesting. That it starts with Smeagol's descent into Gollum, which I really enjoyed. It was supposed to be in the Two Towers, this scene, this sequence. But they felt that it would be more appropriate at the beginning to start this part of the story. I think probably for me anyway, I saw it as a reminder of the stakes. Like, what are we fighting for? We're fighting for the destruction of this evil and a reminder of Frodo's burden and his fight of the temptation of the ring.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like we need to be reminded of how consumed by the ring Smeagol really is. Mm-hmm. Like, sure, in the last movie, we think there's some change there, but at the end of the Two Towers, we see that change was never really there to begin with. And so I feel like really reminding the audience, especially after a year since the Two Towers, like, hey, we have to remind everyone, you cannot trust Smeagol.
Yeah, and what I really liked about it is it kind of takes back to Tolkien's religious background, and that this is sort of a Cain and Abel-esque story in the very beginning, with Smeagol and Deagol. Yeah, I know.
Which is, it's unfortunate. I never knew that they were cousins. I always thought they were brothers. But,
yeah, so did I.
But I read like, no, that's just, they're cousins. But I think, aren't all hobbits like cousins? Isn't that what Mary said about Frodo and Fellowship?
They're all, they're a very close-knit community.
Can we just confirm that the Shire is the Alabama of Middle-earth?
That's good.
No offense to anyone who actually listens that is from Alabama.
Or the Shire. So I did enjoy this sort of, I noticed at this time that the Cain and Abel allegory of, and it's sort of immediate. I mean, it's crazy how easily swayed these two hobbits are, and which completely negates what I had said in episode 1. The Fellowship, which is a hobbit, would be the only one to be able to take on this burden. It really is just Frodo and Sam. Essentially.
Yeah, well, and I feel like maybe this, if either of us had actually read the books, I feel like maybe we'd understand why the ring isn't taking hold of Frodo as quickly as we see with Smeagol and Deagol. Maybe that's because of Sam. I would assume that Sam has really been, as I've been saying for the last 2 episodes, really been Frodo's North Star.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes sense, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is instantaneous. The
switch.
The power of the ring really does take hold of both of them. And then we get that sequence of him slowly devolving into Gollum.
Over hundreds of years.
Yeah, because he's a few hundred years old. 5, I think, is what they said.
Probably. I mean, because The Hobbit takes place 60 years before this, and he's already full-fledged.
Oh,
he already looks like that. So I would assume hundreds of years before that. So
a great use of CGI with that shot of him closing his eyes and then opening them, and then it's the CGI
Yeah.
Gollum eyes.
Yeah, man. I do want to point out that the CGI on Gollum in this movie is significantly better, and it's
Yeah.
because I read that they had more time
Mhm.
between Two Towers and this one
That makes sense.
to really focus on the CGI,
Right.
and you can see the difference. There are several shots where he looks like he's really there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%.
But yeah, so what a way to open this movie. Again, a reminder of what's at stake, a reminder of what Frodo is having to essentially fight on a daily basis, and a reminder that our two heroes are with the least trustful person
Yes, of
ever.
course. Now, I will say that I guess besides the theaters, this is I had never seen the theatrical version of this movie. I'd only seen the theatrical version in the theaters. Every time I've seen this movie, other than that time, was the extended editions. So I didn't realize that this Saruman sequence is not in the theatrical version.
Yeah,
It's a pretty big deal. So I don't understand why. It's how Pippin gets a hold of the orb for the first time. So I don't even understand how it would even be possible not to put it in. But I mean, whatever.
The Paneteer, yeah, it is interesting because like the first time I saw these movies, obviously they were the theatrical releases, and yeah, it doesn't give really an explanation of how like how the I just said it, but I feel like that was wrong. The Seeing Stone
Mhm.
Would end up outside of Isengard, but of course, yeah, the extended has this really good scene to kind of say goodbye to Saruman. Really, I'm assuming you read then that Christopher Lee was really upset
Yeah,
when
because
he
he's
learned
not
that
in.
they
If that scene's not there, he's not in the movie.
yeah
Which is bizarre. But of course, you have so much ground to cover that, I mean, sacrifices need to be made, and I get that. But this one seemed like a pretty big deal to cut out. And then Brad Dourif, we wouldn't get a little bit of Brad Dourif in the movie, which is a shame because he's so good, and a little bit of humanity still remains in his character, especially when Saruman is besmirching the name of Gondor.
Rohan.
Rohan, sorry.
Yeah, which is
Get ready for that plot.
I do love that Theoden was even ready to forgive Grima for everything he'd done, with poisoning Theoden, and that he was ready to forgive him, just come back.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, I would assume if the scene didn't go the way it did, I would assume that Theoden would also probably have used Grima to be like, hey, you kind of knew what was going on. What do we do?
Mm-hmm.
I would assume he would probably have used him for information, but
if it
we'll never
wasn't know. So now that Saruman is out of the picture, and I'm sorry, Brad Dourif's character is who? What's his name?
Grima.
Thank you.
Grima Wormtongue.
Once they're Wormtongue, that's what it was. Once they're out of the picture, I would say that our secondary villain becomes Denethor.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, Denethor, he's awful.
Yeah, bro.
However,
Denethor,
I do like there's little details with Denethor that I appreciated. So he resides in Gondor, or the specific place would be
Minas Tirith.
Right, Minas Tirith. Is Gondor like the state and Minas Tirith is like the city? Is that what we're doing?
Essentially, yeah. It's the kingdom of Gondor. Then you have Minas Tirith as the main hub, Osgiliath on the river, and then Minas Morgul, which was like a sister city to Minas Tirith, but not no more.
Right. So what I like, bless you, is when we see Denethor, and he's holding Boromir's horn. He's not sitting on the throne. He's sitting below it. He's sitting underneath it.
Yeah, he's sitting on the steward's chair, which is interesting, considering he does,
because he's not the king of Gondor.
Right, but see, I do find that interesting, an interesting little tidbit about Denethor, because he is sort of like, he has king envy, you know, especially as he tells Gandalf that the rule of Gondor is mine. So why wouldn't he take the higher seat?
Right.
But
I don't know. It must be some sort of like he wants it so bad, but he knows that, I mean, he doesn't belong on the throne. Like, it's not his to have. God knows what would happen if he were to take over, but Jesus, thank God. Okay.
Well, I mean, he technically was already governing Minas Tirith and the Kingdom of Gondor, so.
Which, honestly, I mean, you know, that's probably, I mean, it's not, but I'd like to think that, you know, Aragorn saw how things were going and he goes, I should probably come back. I should probably take the throne. This is bad. Denethor sucks, you know.
2006 Kanye, like, all right, I'm gonna let you finish up, but
okay, so we have, and I'm probably not getting the timeline correct on this, but then we do have the Battle of Minas Tirith.
Yes.
Not, I mean, probably right away. It seemed like right away we had the battle, because if you watch it on the discs like I did, the battle is split in between the two. So,
yeah, I mean, because this is when we get the whole, you know, the beacons are lit. Yeah. And it takes Rohan, I think it's like 3 months to get there.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of insane, but I think it's like 3 months it takes them to get there. I think that's in the books. I think for the movie it's like a couple of weeks or something like that, but I think in the books it takes them like 3 months,
right,
to get from Rohan to Gondor. But
so, okay, where our heroes are, so Haley's laughing at me. So Frodo, Sam, and Gollum are super close to Mordor, but they're at the Green City, right?
Yeah, Minas Morgul,
which the Uruk-hai, the orcs have taken over.
Yeah,
correct, right. They set off the sky beam, which I kind of don't understand.
It's
I know the Uruk-hai took over the Green City. From
orcs.
whom I don't know.
Well, okay. Pause for just a quick second.
Cool.
So Minas Morgul was the sister city to Minas Tirith, so it was under Gondor's rule. But then it fell to the orcs, because the Uruk-hai, that was kind of Saruman's thing. So after the Two Towers, we're done with the Uruk-hai. We only have orcs. We only have orcs.
Can I be... Listen, I know this is a safe space. I thought, up until this very second, that Uruk-hai was plural for orcs.
No, it's orcs.
I'm just throwing that out there. Okay.
No, because the Orokai are specifically bred. Orcs apparently breed through normal breeding processes.
Oh, well, look at that.
So we're talking about a little whoop.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the orcs, I don't know, I'm sure it's talked about in the books and in the appendices.
Sure.
But yeah,
Okay.
the orcs overtake Minas Morgul,
Mhm.
and that becomes kind of like the hub for, more specifically, the Witch King of Angmar.
Okay.
But there you go.
And so they are now on their way to Minas Tirith. The orcs from
Oh,
right.
Minas Morgul. Yep.
Minas Morgul. Okay. Gandalf and Pippin are in Minas Tirith.
Yep.
And Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are with Merry, with Rohan, with the people
on
of
their
Rohan,
way.
on their way,
Yeah.
right? Because because they take over that ship with the ghost people. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the ghost people for 10 minutes because I think they're super cool. I think they are they're sort of a Deus
Ex Machina.
Yep, Deus Ex Machina. That's what I was trying to go for. Anyway, they're sort of that because they're they're so powerful and you can't stab them that it's sort of like, if you have them on your side, you're gonna win, right? So I know that what I gathered from the film, that Aragorn recruits them as the rightful heir to the throne of Gondor, because
that is correct.
Whoever rules Gondor has the power to set them free. Am I correct?
Yes. So
because there's a bargain of sorts.
So during the
here we go
Second Age,
mm-hmm.
So when the last alliance of men, elves, I don't think dwarves are there. The prologue to Fellowship,
mm-hmm.
when hang on, don't remember his name. Isildur's father, when he called upon everyone to come help, these men fled, and they fled into the mountains.
I see.
And so Isildur cursed them and said that their oaths, they cannot be free, they cannot find peace until their oaths have been fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one who can fulfill them is the rightful king of Gondor. And since the line was broken,
mm-hmm.
they just never found peace until Aragorn, gave them the deal. Deal or no deal.
Right.
Sharks, I come to you with the deal. So fight for me. Help me win this battle. I'll hold your oaths fulfilled, and you can finally have peace.
Right on. Mom sent me emails today for these questions I had. And yeah, you nailed it. I read over it very quickly, so it didn't stick in my brain. And how boring would it be for me to just read on the show? So,
you just got your phone out like this.
Yeah, and I'm just reading.
The ghosts are,
but they were great. Peter Jackson gives his cameo as one of the people on that ship.
Did you know?
Stabbed.
Did you know that Peter Jackson? This movie came out, I think, after Pirates of the Caribbean, and he was really impressed with the Ghost Pirates and was like, "Damn it!"
Yeah.
But
it makes sense.
But that video I sent you, which hopefully Future Rain has credited it when you mentioned it, he brought up a good point that Peter Jackson's visual effects for these ghosts are still really impressive, considering, yes, the ghosts of the Curse of the Black Pearl are awesome.
Yeah.
But they really rely on moonlight, and that's why that visual effect is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Jackson did a great job without using any natural light.
Yeah.
And primarily probably sticking these actors on a green screen.
Yeah.
The effect is still
no, I know
awesome.
it really holds up. And I like that, during this battle at Minas Tirith, that they're sort of like, once they're there, it's like it's over.
Yeah. It's like playing a video game that you've already beaten like 3 times and just like getting it over with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of like that. Okay. So yes. Gondor is safe for now. And man, we yada yada over a lot of that, but
we jumped
battle,
over the part,
because to me the battle is sort of like, it's fine and it's entertaining and it's it's whatever, but it's not the Battle of Helm's Deep. That battle to me was more significant, and I think because this movie is so long that
and there's 2 big battles,
it seems to me that it's sort of just it's a stepping stone where we have this battle at Minas Tirith, and then once it's over and Gondor is now safe and the ghost people are now free to go, which could have used them at Mordor, whatever.
Well, we kind of skipped over your whole confusion of the Witch King of Angmar's whole "no man can kill me."
Well, yes, I get it now. I get it now.
Did you know?
At first I did think that when the head Nazgul, when he's saying that no living man can kill me, I really thought he meant mankind. I thought he meant the species of man. But of course, you and Alex were explaining to me, he's like, well, no, because he is a human being, technically.
Yeah. He's neither living nor dead.
Right.
So.
He was the race of man. And with the temptation and the evil powers of the ring and of Sauron, they are the Nazgul.
Yeah.
I get it.
Did you know? I never knew this. Andy Serkis is the voice of the Witch King.
Really?
The Witch King of Angmar. Yeah. I was watching that video I sent you, and I listened really closely after it, because they even said it. They're like, yeah, and he's voiced by Andy Serkis. I'm like, huh. And so they played the clip of I think it's Golomoth, the piglet looking orc. Asking him like, what about the wizard? And he goes, I will break him. I listened really carefully, and I was like, oh, yeah, that is Andy Serkis, because I know you're gonna hate this.
I might.
I was like, that sounded like Emperor Snoke.
Oh, interesting.
Which Andy Serkis also played.
Emperor Snoke. I guess I'd forgotten that was in that battle. At the Battle of Minas Tirith. I thought it was the other one. I thought that was the Mordor one.
No, because Eowyn owns his ass,
right?
And then he's Dunzo Spagunzo. He's just a sheet,
right? Right. Okay, so during this time, sort of a meanwhile, our hobbits are getting closer and closer to Mordor. Okay.
Yeah.
I really love the line, and I'm skipping kind of ahead, because is it in this one where Gollum is framing Sam and trying to pull them apart? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, that, you know, and I think it might have been in that video. Again, I only watched a little bit of it. But I think he implied that maybe Gollum is waking them up for no reason every once in a while for sleep deprivation to get them to really be aggravated at one another.
Yeah.
And of course, framing Sam for taking the elvish bread.
Limbus bread. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I learned, I think this go around, I hadn't realized that that's all they've been eating is the bread,
Yeah.
and that it's special, like magic bread that, well, not magic bread, but you get what I'm saying.
It's as Legolas puts it in Fellowship, that a small bite can fill the stomach of a full-grown man for a day, or something like that.
So it's like, oh, okay, so that's really all they needed. And so I did like that, you know, we really see Gollum's negative influence on Sam and Frodo, and that the ring really is taking hold of Frodo more and more with each day. And Sam, poor Sam. Sam is just so understanding, and he really is trying to help, and he doesn't want to lose his friend, and he hates that this creature is pulling them apart, and that and again, Gollum is a constant reminder of Frodo's future if Frodo fails. Or if Frodo decides to just take off with the ring. Probably the scariest scene in all three of these movies is the spider. No?
Shelob. Yeah. Dude. Man, fuck that spider, bro.
And she is in The Hobbit, correct?
Not necessarily, but her species is in The Hobbit.
Okay.
I believe she's the last of her kind.
Okay, so it's not her specifically.
No.
Because it looked like she had wounds, you know, like,
yeah.
And I was like, oh, is that from The Hobbit? Like, is that supposed to be sort of like a callback, like, from, because I don't really remember The Hobbit that much.
No, I think Shelob is, I think she's meant to be the last spider.
I see. Well, it's very scary, and you can tell that, and I kind of wish Peter Jackson.
Yeah, she's the last of the Ungoliant.
Okay.
Spider-like being. Yeah, she's a relative of the great spiders of Mirkwood, which were in The Hobbit.
The Hobbit, got it. Okay, so it's not.
But yeah, so she is the last of her kind.
Got it. I think Peter Jackson should go back to doing horror movies. There are moments in the sequence that are so terrifying, especially when he uses the absence of sound and the absence of music to really turn up the frightening element. Because when she is behind him, like above him and behind him, and there's no music, there's no sound effects, it's terrifying. I think you should go back to that. I don't know who can call him or whatever, but I think you should do horror movies again.
Well, you know what I love is that he kind of gives a little shout out to Ridley Scott, Alien, when the camera pans up and she's hidden in plain sight, just like the xenomorph is in Alien. Dude, fucking. So I hate spiders.
Yeah, they're very scary.
But you know, apparently Peter Jackson is like a horrific arachnophobe. So I'm sure having to sit in and watch the edits of this, you're just like,
can you imagine? Oh man!
Like, all right,
all right. Tell me when it's over, and I'll.
Like, Peter, you need to sign off on this.
Yeah,
I'm
no, it's
sure it looks
great.
good.
Yep, looks great. Yeah, I can't imagine. But okay,
Uh,
so this spider is really interesting because it has a stinger on the end,
mhm.
which most spiders don't do that. But again, Frodo's getting stabbed. He's so good at it. And here's my question. Because in this
Uh-huh.
moment, he still has the elvish it's called something.
Oh, the mithril.
The mithril. He still has
Yeah.
that on. So I don't understand how he got stabbed. I was super mad about that. And I know it's so stupid and it's so nerdy to be like, well, if you pay attention, he's still wearing it.
Well, no, but that does bring up a good point, because if the mithril can withstand up to anything, how did she sting him?
Right. Maybe in the books he's not wearing it. I don't know. Or maybe this doesn't, there are certain moments I know that in these films that they do differ very, very
Uh,
much.
well, I just looked it up.
Great.
Her sting is venomous, and it can get through the mithril.
Got it.
So,
All I needed. Just stuff
so
that
that was
doesn't exist,
Tolkien.
explaining other stuff that doesn't exist, mashed them together, and now I have an explanation. So that's good.
Well, and I'm pretty sure that was Tolkien just being like,
I don't know.
her sting was venomous.
Yeah,
There.
it's just there. Shut up, nerd. And
Well, you
I
know
will.
what's funny is he told people that, like, he would be like, people come up to me, like, in one of the videos I sent you, they play an audio clip of him being like, people would come up to me in the pub and say, like, why did they just fly the eagles to Mordor? It would make the journey much short. And all I have to say to that is, shut up.
I agree. Shut up, because well, the Nazgul, they ride those dragon-like things.
Yeah, the fell beasts.
Yeah, that the Felbies. You're very good at this. That would attack the eagles anyway. So I would say, who cares about the eagles? Because I've heard that that argument before.
Well, and like the first video I sent you, Eric, the host, brings up a really good point, which is the eagles, being intelligent beings as themselves, would be susceptible to the ring as well. And they lost. I was going to say people. They intervened in battles and lost, some of their own. So they were real hesitant to get involved in a new conflict, especially against fell beasts, because they were like, I don't
Maybe
know
not
about
this
this champ.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Right. All right. So he gets stabbed, and Sam thinks him to be dead. Okay.
Yeah. Can't check his fucking pulse.
Yeah, but he takes the ring, so that's really interesting. Is that he knows that the sting is blue, so he knows that there's orcs around, and so takes the ring, which we don't know that yet. And then Frodo gets taken to Mordor, which is kind of like fast pass. I mean, that was pretty easy,
All I had to do to make it in is just get stabbed by a spider.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, if that's all we needed to do, should have done that, 3 months ago. But when he gets taken, and they're going through all of his stuff, and they're taking the mithril and whatever. I really like this, and I don't know if this is like this in the book. Of course, who knows? Neither of us read it, but I like that the necklace that he's wearing the ring on is burning his skin. That he has, a horrible like burn where the necklace lays around his neck. And then later, of course, he'll say how heavy the ring is when he gets near more. Again, I love I love stuff like that. That, you know, this thing is sort of otherworldly, that it, you know, reacts to things around it.
Yeah, that we are getting essentially a visual representation of, it's not only psychological effects on Frodo, but it's physical effects on him, that, you know, that the chain that he's carrying it on is digging into his neck,
Yeah.
and scarring his neck, and yeah. And I think it's also meant to be like a visual aid for the audience to be like, yeah, this is serious.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
That it's not just, you know, mental and psychological, but it's also physical, and it's a physical burden as much as it is an emotional burden.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead, because then we get introduced to a character that I, one, didn't remember, and two, was like, how on this planet Earth did this character not give me 1,000 nightmares when I saw it for the first time? And that's the thing that's like that guards the gates of Mordor. Who is this guy?
Oh, I think he calls himself like the Speaker of Sauron. He's that actor is shit.
It would make sense if he wasn't in the theatrical version, because I can't believe
he's not.
Okay.
Yeah, he's,
because I'm like, I would have remembered that, because it would have scared me senseless, because he's terrifying looking. But
that's Rich, Bruce. Shit, I don't know. Bruce Spence? No, I'm like throwing things out here.
And he's sort of like a mix between the head Nazgul, and like an orc. Like he's sort of like a combination between the two. His
Bruce
helmet
Spence.
is crazy.
Yeah, his name is Bruce Spence. He's shout out to our last season. He's the guy in the train of Matrix Revolutions.
Oh.
You know, the guy who like runs the train. Yeah, that's
him. Okay. I remember that, kind of. All right, cool. Yeah, so he was terrifying, and I loved his character. Which now, okay, again, I'm going to complain about the theatrical version, because how then would we not? Then how would we convey to the audience that the people there, Aragon and company, they now think Frodo's dead because he has
the Mithril.
Mithril.
Yeah.
So how else would we know? How else would we know that they think that Frodo is dead, even though Aragon doesn't believe it? Which, but
I believe, if I remember correctly from seeing the theatrical release, they just go on faith that he's still alive, because how it happens is they still ride up to the Black Gate, and Aragon says, may the Lord of the Black Lands come forth, so justice can be served upon him. And then the Black Gates open, and then there's all the orcs.
I see.
And then they're like, oh shit, and then they ride back to the.
I see.
Yeah. So I think for the theatrical release, they just had to go on. They were just trying to convey. They're doing the plan of the distraction. They're distracting Sauron from Frodo. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
but I think for the extended, they wanted to do sort of like an all is lost for everyone else.
Right.
With the he's called the mouth of Sauron, not the voice or the speaker. He's the mouth of Sauron.
That makes sense, because all you can see is his mouth.
But
no, yeah, I love that scene, and I didn't remember it at all. So that was cool.
Yeah, and then Aragon just straight up beheads him Like, you know what? Fuck this guy.
Yeah, I'm tired of him talking all the time. Yeah, I get it. So, okay. So now Frodo and Sam have sort of snuck in, with their armor or whatever that they stole from Mordor, and now they're trying to sneak into Mordor, into Mount Doom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, so this is where we get, like the ring is heavy and the Eye of Sauron really affects Frodo. And it's like it burns, right? It's like everything hurts. And again, I really like this representation of the ring and its power, and it doesn't want to be destroyed, obviously, and so the closer it gets to the only place it can be destroyed, of course, it's going to fight back in any way it can. So here's the problem I had with your video you sent.
Okay.
I don't think this entire story, or this entire section of this greater story, I don't think that The Return of the King is a story about failure necessarily.
Okay.
I think Frodo succumbing to the temptation of the ring is in and of itself, I guess, a failure. Okay? Frodo failed to destroy the ring. He was tasked to do so. He did not complete that task.
Okay. Yeah.
It speaks to the overwhelming temptation and power and evil of the ring and of Sauron.
Okay.
But that to me, that's the only failure we have in the movie.
Well, did you watch the whole video just out of curiosity? Okay. Well, he does go on to, Eric goes on to compare that, Peter and his team, Peter, Fran, and Philippa, said that the kind of the core that they were going for was that it's a story of addiction, which we've talked about with Requiem, and that failure is a part of the addiction process.
Right.
But no, I agree. I wouldn't say the whole story was a failure. I would say that, yes, Frodo as a ring bearer and the task set before him, he technically fails at it. Because he only on a technicality destroys the ring. But, he does succumb to the darkness, which... Yeah.
But
which you hate to... Yeah.
I think the ring... From my perspective, the ring is in its most powerful state on that ledge.
I agree.
It happens to what's his face in the prologue.
Isildur.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately is the only other example we have with him, with the ring being on the ledge of Mount Doom. Probably because that's the only other time it was ever there, I assume.
Well, yeah, because, after Isildur died, it faded into legend,
Right.
So...
And didn't appear later, until Deagle found it, right? Yeah. But it's like the further away it gets, to me anyway, it seems the further from Mordor it gets, the less addictive it is, which is weird because I guess that doesn't make sense because when Gollum found it, it was addictive.
I think I know what you're saying. It's less potent in a way. Like it is still very addictive, but it's not corrupting people as quickly as almost Frodo succumbs to it within seconds.
Right, because again, it corrupting Frodo is sort of, for the audience perspective, like, man, it is undestroyable. It is
Yeah.
unkillable. This thing is the ultimate power, in that the ring will always will always prevail, because it corrupted Frodo at the very last moment. In
Yeah.
the time where he had to do was let go. Sam, of course, is devastating in the scene when he's crying out to Frodo to just let go of the ring.
Well, and you could also kind of see it as the ring is really desperate at this point
Yeah,
too,
you're right.
because we've seen Frodo essentially say, "I'm ready to be rid of this," and he has that chance, and like you said, all he has to do is let go. So of course the ring is gonna double down
Mhm.
and do everything in its power to be like, no, 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 no. You want me. You don't want to let me go.
In movies like this, I really like, because it provides um, so much personification, and so much meaning to inanimate objects, which I
Mm-hmm.
really like. You see it in other films too, but this one specifically, especially when we get to this movie, when you see it, you almost see it as a living thing, as
Yeah.
not just a talisman, but as like a living, breathing parasite, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is very impressive. Because again, it's just a ring, but
Yeah. And can I say, I think it's funny too that Peter Jackson saved a lot of the blood for this movie.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, the movies are violent, and we see blood every now and then, but it's more orc blood, it's
Sure,
black. But dude, when Smeagol bites Frodo's fucking finger off,
yeah, it's
bro.
crazy.
And here's an interesting thing that I just caught on this watch through. He bites it off from the knuckle.
Mhm.
So Frodo has a stub kind of like that.
Yeah,
The ring would have been all the way down here
he may have moved it
for
up.
people watching. That's true. For people watching YouTube, I'm pointing out on my finger. Or no, because
Well,
he
see
pulls it
this.
off the stub.
See, this is a how did the spider sting him with mithril on? This is the same thing.
Uh,
It doesn't matter really.
I know. I'm just like, because like you and I, our wedding bands are down here at the base of our finger.
Yeah.
So that's where I would assume the ring is. But if Gollum bit it off at the knuckle, then like that would mean the ring was right there.
I kind of wish, now that I'm thinking about it, I do wish we would have seen something from Frodo's perspective. Like, what would it possibly look like there in Mordor, in Mount Doom, on the ledge with that ring on? I wonder what it would look like.
Oh, while he's in the unseen.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would have been
that would have been
interesting.
really cool to see. I don't know if that's in the books or anything. Shout out to us if you know. Let us know if if there's any description of what the unseen looks like in Mordor.
I bet your
Um,
mom would probably know
she
the
probably would
answer.
know, but we'll
Um,
never know. Just kidding. I love you.
um, but yeah, but I love that this is probably the most blood we've seen across these three movies. The blood just pouring out of Frodo's finger.
Well, and again, it's also the desperate. This is two addicts um,
Yeah,
fighting over their fix. And once they both fall over the edge, you're like, well, that's over.
yeah,
And that shot of Gollum holding it, it's, I guess you've already brought it up. It's sort of like in Requiem, when Marion at the very end gets her stash, right? I'm not making it as a joke. It really, I mean, because
no,
it is,
no.
it is, for a lack of a better word, it's very precious to him, right? And so
Yeah.
he finally has it too. So he hasn't held it,
In 60
Yeah.
years.
And so he finally gets to hold it, and he's relishing the moment. He's savoring the moment of holding it, no matter where he is, falling into Mount Doom.
Yeah.
And man, the suspense of it being on that piece of rock.
I know that like his the flesh of his hand
Yeah.
like kind of cooled the lava just for a second to yeah, dude.
And
I
it is my understanding in the book that is not how it happens. The ring is destroyed a different way, I believe, in the book, is my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, it still falls, but it says it falls into the crack of doom.
Mm-hmm.
The ring melts in the fire, destroying it and Sauron's power. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's similar.
Yeah.
But
it's
not.
It's not exactly the way it goes down. I
Yeah.
think it's more cinematic the way that they do it, obviously.
Yeah.
In book form, of course, it's different. And I think Saruman is still there when the ring is destroyed. If it's my understanding, Saruman is not dead at this point.
We'll say sure. Well, because little fun fact, in the book, it's not really over, in the sense that yeah, they kill Sauron, but his forces, in a chapter called "The Scouring of the Shire,"
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right.
They raid the Shire, and Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin have to go home and literally liberate the Shire.
Yeah.
But for the movie, of course, they cut that out just because they felt like for a movie format, the natural conclusion is the ring is destroyed, evil is done.
Right.
Good is even though I would say at least 8,000 orcs still got away.
Yeah, that's true.
A good chunk of the orcs still got away, I mean, sure, Mordor collapses in on itself, but the orcs that were starting to surround them on this side, again, if you're watching the YouTube, I'm pointing around because they surround Aragorn and the army. They go that way, away from all the falling earth. So there's still evil out there, but maybe with Aragorn as king and with the elf queen at his side, they hunt them all down.
Okay. The ring is destroyed. Sam and Frodo get picked up and taken to Rivendell. Is that what they go?
Minas Tirith.
Damn. And okay, there was a moment. There's a moment that that Frodo and Sam have when Sam pokes his head in, right? And it's not one of like Frodo's so excited to see everybody else, right? Yet there's that moment with Frodo and Sam. And to me, this go around, I read this moment as, yes, there's still love and friendship between the two of them. But I also felt that Frodo is acknowledging his failure to do what was right when it counted. And Sam knowing the same. That Frodo prevailed almost on accident.
Yeah.
and that they're sort of sharing this knowledge because I don't think anybody else knows that.
I like that. I do. I always interpreted the scene as more of just like kind of like that, an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think about the failure more so. I
Okay.
think more just like an understanding of they'll never know. Well, pretty much everything you just said,
Well, and
minus the failure.
we'll
part.
get to the other part of that, I guess now. When well, we have to talk about this scene because mom sobs every time when
The
when Aragon is being crowned as king. He sees Arwen,
Arwen. Yeah.
and they're going to be together. She will be queen, and him king of Gondor. And when the hobbits start to bow, he tells them no.
Yeah, my friends, you bow to no one.
Oh, mom just loses it. She's like, oh my god. And then they all bow to them. Holy Jesus.
Sidebar real quick. Can I say I love that in the extended, because Aragon really crushes Eowyn's like chances with him.
Yeah.
But I love in the extended we get a Faramir kind of peering out from the corner, and I saw a meme where it's that shot and Faramir's like, now a chance for Captain Faramir of Gondor to show his quality.
Yeah, finally.
I mean that's true though. Like almost all overnight they like fall in love.
Yeah, which is fine because if we're talking about the romance of these stories, I found that I'm rooting for Aragon and Arwen more than I am.
Of course.
Right, of course. I mean, it's not
Faramir and Eowyn.
Yeah, who cares? Well,
then here's the other thing.
I'm saying Eowyn and Aragon shouldn't be together. That's not.
No, yeah, of course.
It's not going for me.
But look, I'm going to be real. He was sending her a lot of mixed messages.
He was. I agree.
Here's a question for you, dude. Because in the I don't think this is in the theatrical, but in the extended, Theoden tells Eowyn that if he dies, that she's gonna rule Rohan in his place.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think she made Faramir move to Edoras?
Yeah, maybe.
Like, look, I got a rule now. Like, you're gonna become a horse boy now. So
you dunzo.
I'm sure Faramir was like, fuck it. Like, if I just have to sit back now, like, I'm all good.
Yeah, okay. We skipped over it. Son of a bitch. There's so much in this movie. Denethor
sending his own son to die.
Well, not sending his own son. Well, yes. Denethor not understanding that Faramir is still alive. It's crazy. I think with Denethor, he's desperate for everything to be over. I think he's desperate for because he's still mourning Boromir, his favorite.
Yeah,
I think he sees when Faramir is struck in battle and is essentially just unconscious. I think he finally sees it as, okay, if Faramir dies, I can go too, and then it's over. It's done. No more grief, no more mourning. Like, it's over. And I think he was just so blinded by grief and by a chance of relieving that grief that he he was overlooking certain like life signs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, man, Denethor's descent into madness, especially after Faramir comes back half alive. Also,
I can't stand watching him eat either. Jesus. Oh,
look, let's be real with ourselves here. There's no way he would have survived the run out of the temple
you know what they said?
all the way to the end of the courtyard and flung himself off.
Oh,
He
it
would
was
have
such a cool shot, though.
burnt to a crisp by the white tree.
Is that one
But
of
it
the
is a
two?
cool shot.
Is that one of the two trees, by the way?
No,
That damn it.
that one in the video
All right.
I sent you. He explains that it was one that was planted in Numenor,
Mhm.
which was meant to be sort of a recreation of the trees of Valinor.
I see.
But after Numenor was destroyed by a great wave, they were able to save the tree, and
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I think
yeah.
I think that's one of the bigger things that we skipped over was Denethor and his descent into
Well-
absolute madness.
Well, like you said, there's a lot of ground, especially in this one. There's so much ground we got to cover, and then it has like 4 different endings.
That's true. I always felt that people were a little too harsh on the endings.
I agree.
Because yes, it does seem like it ends 5 or 6 times. I get that. I think that we need these things, right? We need these. Okay, here's their ending. Now here's theirs, and now
Yeah.
However, 3 of them are with the hobbits.
Yes, yeah, because we get the ending for Aragorn. He's going to be king. He's going to more than likely usher in a new age of peace among men. Legolas is going to go off with the elves back to Valinor, because that's where they're from.
Right.
They're not from Middle Earth. They're from Valinor.
Right.
Gimli is going to probably go back to the mountains with the dwarves and
Wherever they live.
whatever the fuck whatever they're going to do. And that's it for them. And then we get at least 3 endings with the hobbits. But going back to week 1, we needed to see them come home.
Yeah, of course.
And
here's what I love about them coming home. Okay, they're obviously changed. They're different people.
Yeah.
We get it might even be the exact same shot of that guy sweeping his lawn and giving them glares like he did with Gandalf when Gandalf came in.
Yeah.
It's the same guy. So, okay, here's what I love about the scene of them, especially in the bar. Is that it must be taken from if this is from the books. Tolkien is a war veteran, right? I don't remember which war. I can't do math.
The First World War.
That's what I thought. Anyway, so
I mean, he lived through both,
right? Of course,
but he fought in World War One. Yeah.
Coming home after something like that. I am not a veteran, but I can understand going through something so traumatic or going through something that's so significant in a very short amount of time. You come home and then you in the film you have this interaction between the hobbits, and they're more wholesome and they're a little bit more understanding, and they're a more peaceful people, the hobbits. But there's that scene with them at the table and they're looking around and you see that guy that's like about to carve the pumpkin, and you see these other guys dancing and you see these other guys drinking, and they all look at each other like these people they have no idea.
Well, it kind of mirrors Bilbo's coming home,
right? Exactly.
Bilbo being changed from the events of The Hobbit he had no one to share in these stories with, as where we'd say our four have the ability to share in these stories, but you're right. They look around at their fellow hobbits and they're like, these people don't know.
Well,
Like,
and
they don't know what we've just been through for the last year.
I'll go a step further, and it's these hobbits seem different. These hobbits seem, blissfully ignorant, or they seem, I don't want to say, I mean, they seem less than. Now that we've been through this journey with these four, these hobbits that surround them just seem, you know, like I said, just like blissfully ignorant in their, in their nice, clean lives. And that's weird now. And so, yes, I completely see where Bilbo just couldn't connect to anybody. He sees these people as idiots, or he sees these people as, they're cowardly, simpletons in a way.
Yeah. But the most good out of this is that, Sam finally has a backbone to ask out Rosie Cotton.
Yep. His wife in real life.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that Sean Astin's real wife? And I think that's their actual kids.
Yes, those
later on too.
Yeah.
But it does seem like, and of course we get a bit of exposition telling us that it's been 4 years since they came home. Everyone else seems to finally kind of reacclimate back into normalcy. Pip, Merry, and Sam. But Frodo, I think the guilt of failing, and of course his literal unhealable wound, have scarred him so deeply that he is sort of becoming Bilbo. And we kind of get that mirrored with him in Bag End, not really socializing.
Yeah.
Spending all day in the office writing, But the difference, I think, with Frodo versus Bilbo is where Bilbo still had possession of the ring, and the ring was still kind of toying with him a little bit. Frodo just has his guilt. Right. His guilt of failing.
Yeah.
Which makes his decision, of course, for the book readers, they already knew, but for people who hadn't read the book, his decision to leave with the elves to Valinor, the Undying Lands, more shocking, but also, I think, more understanded.
Right, yeah, I think his decision to leave is, it's completely understandable, and he's taking Bilbo with him, which is sweet. God, Bilbo's old. Without the ring, he's aging quite rapidly.
Yes.
And it seems too. It seemed a little too slow for it to have been in the theatrical version, but I did like him and Frodo having that exchange of Bilbo asking about the ring and where it is. And poor Frodo just saying that he lost it, because I guess, it's too much to explain and it's too hard to talk about for Frodo, at least. But I did like that exchange between the two of them, because there is a lot of pain still with Frodo about the ring and about, what happened with it.
Well, and that's I was just double checking before I put my foot in my mouth and, didn't sound like I knew what I was talking about. The reason why he also chooses to go, Valinor, where the elves are from, are also referred to as the Undying Lands. There, his unhealable wound not necessarily could be cured, but could be managed better than it could in Middle Earth. Because as I was reading, even though, well, and he was granted special permission to go. I didn't know that. Only elves are allowed to go.
Right, of course.
Elves and wizards, of course, because Gandalf goes with them. Yeah. But apparently because Bilbo and Frodo were ring bearers of Sauron's ring, it granted them permission to go to Valinor, where apparently eventually Frodo could peacefully die. And I think we kind of get that a little bit with his final shot in the film, where he looks kind of sickly before he gets on the boat. And then when he gets on the boat, the color has returned to his face and he seems happy.
Yeah. Or at peace, at least. Yeah.
Or at peace. Yeah. Because yes, it sucks that he's leaving his friends behind, but this is kind of what I just said. This is a journey that he has to take because he can't go back to normalcy in the Shire.
And I think the most significant the most significant thing about the endings is that we end with Sam. I think that's extremely significant because you're right, because Sam was so integral in the ring's destruction, in the prevail of good over evil. I think that was all Sam. And so ending with Sam, having possibly the true hero of the Lord of the Rings, having the film end with Sam living peacefully and happily in the Shire, after basically saving all Middle Earth.
So, interestingly enough, I just read, apparently, in the book, Sam eventually goes to Valinor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then I only know this from interviews. Merry and Pippin, when they die, are buried with Aragorn.
Oh, that's sweet.
Because I only know this because Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan are trying to convince Viggo Mortensen that when they all die, they should all be buried together. And Viggo's like, absolutely not.
That please don't.
And then Dominic's like, how is he gonna know? He's gonna die before us.
And he's like, and we're gonna make sure of that.
Yeah. We've already picked out the plot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree, man, because Sam, through Fellowship, Sam is sort of the side character. In Two Towers, we see Sam start to come into his own right as just as important as Frodo. And then in this one, he's as important, if not more, because in the video I sent you, he's the ring bearer.
Right.
Like he has to bear the ring bearer.
Yeah.
Because I think part of it is loyalty to his friend, but the other part of it is he knows that if Frodo can't do it, he has to be the one to help Frodo complete the task.
Right.
And going back to what you said, I think that's why I liked your theory of when they share that look in Minas Tirith, that it's sort of like an acknowledgement of like, look, I know you failed, you failed, but it's over. It's done now.
Yeah. We did it.
We did it. And with that being said, we did it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's a lot we missed. There's a lot we didn't talk about, but you know what, man? I think that's why I really wanted to do these movies, is because I love talking about these movies.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about every little single detail. I think as long as we're hitting the important things and talking about the important things,
or the things that were even just significant to us in general.
Yeah.
I think that that counts.
Like something for me that I never realized until the last few years. I'm convinced Frodo does not know Legolas's name. Because in the scene when he's reunited with everyone, he's saying everyone's name, and then Legolas enters in, and he's just like,
"Hey, buddy!"
You! And then Aragorn comes in, and you could clearly see him mouth Aragorn.
Yeah.
So
that is really funny. I did also notice that this time, and I thought I put it to it was getting old. Him just saying their names as they come in. It's like, we know their names. We're 3 movies in, you know? And so that's what it didn't even dawn on me that he might not know Legolas's name.
Well, because you also got to think, he hasn't seen Legolas in probably 10 months.
And he met him just once, that one time, you know?
Yeah, when Legolas told him, like, and you have my bow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fucking it.
He goes, oh, thanks, man. You know? It's like, oh, right, that guy.
What's your name again?
I love that he's like, you guys still hang out with him? That's cool.
Dude, I thought he would have been dead long ago.
Oh, you made it, man. Hey, good job.
Yeah. But yeah, man. I just, yeah. To go back to what I said, I just love talking about these movies. You know, I'm glad these movies have so much discourse, you know. Which, like I said back in week 1 with Fellowship, I do enjoy the Hobbit films. The Lord of the Rings are clearly the superior films, and that's not Peter Jackson's fault. He had way less time to shoot the Hobbit films, especially considering the Hobbit films were only supposed to be 2 movies, and making the Desolation of Smaug, he realized, like, shit, like, we need more time.
Yeah.
We have too much here for 2 movies. We need 3 movies. So, you know, I give him props for that, for managing to pull that off. And look, the cast is fantastic of The Hobbit. I love Martin Freeman. I think he makes a very compelling, younger, unsure Bilbo. But on the whole, these films significantly better. And like I mentioned last week, I have started watching Amazon's The Rings of Power.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't even finished episode 1. They're very long episodes. Well, dude, they're long.
I get it.
Like, I think I had like 20 minutes left, and I was like, God, good God.
What are they, like an hour and a half long?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Bro. That's or at least the first episode. I don't know about the rest.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
But you know, and I love that, you know, obviously the books are iconic,
mm-hmm.
but I feel like Peter Jackson brought a new way for people to talk about these movies. You know, I mean, yes, there's been, you know, the animated 1970s Lord of the Rings film and the animated late 1970s The Hobbit film.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Peter Jackson really kind of took the Lord of the Rings to a new level and new heights.
Of course.
With these 3 films. This
is like the definitive, like, now at least, it's like when you think Lord of the Rings and you want a visual representation of it, this is it. This is Lord of the Rings. This is what you got. And again, the attention to detail, the amount of time and effort it took to make these 3 movies. The reason why I think it works so well is because he filmed them back to back to back. Mm-hmm. We're filming them all at once. We're, you know, when you see these characters, we're not, you know, there are sometimes you have to suspend your disbelief because they're a year or 2 older now, and then you have to, like, you know, they look different or whatever. Not these.
Yeah.
They were all filmed all at the same time, and, you know, we're not, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, them taking years and years to make because they spend all those years in pre-production.
Mm-hmm.
So all the planning and all of the set building and all of the, you know, the prop building and all that, all of it was already done. So that's how you should make movies. I think people should do that from now on.
Yeah. Just dedicate 3 years of your life.
Yeah.
And make 2 years worth of movies.
Yeah.
Uh, well, buddy, I would say that's our wrap up.
Wrap up.
Yeah.
These movies are incredible, and these
movies are incredible, and I love that I got my wife into them. When Ashley and I first met, I think that was one of the questions I had asked her, like, "Oh, do you like Lord of the Rings?" And she was like, "Oh, I haven't really seen them." And then finally one day, I want to say during the height of COVID, I was like, you know what? I think it's time. She had seen bits and pieces, but I was like, you need to sit and you need to watch from start to finish. And she was like, okay, let's do this. And I think over the course of 3 nights, we watched all 3 movies, the extended.
Of course.
And of course, now she has questions, like she was kind of rewatching them a little bit with me for this series. And she was like, wait a minute, hang on. How does that make sense? And I'm like, well, hang on. Like, okay, let's pause. So I like that I've gotten her like into trying to understand the lore, because I hope we've made it known that the lore is so dense, and that's the benefit of Tolkien being such a fantastic writer. That he, just like the films are so well thought out, that his world is so well thought out,
big time.
But
yeah, I mean, like, you had that reaction from Ashley when you asked her. I think I asked Haley once. I go, do you like the Lord of the Rings? And she said, ew. So,
ew, nerd.
Ew.
Who do you think you are? And you're like, your future husband.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this was not her bag, and that's okay.
And that is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is okay. I don't think anyone out there needs to be like, oh, I would say in the realm of movies to recommend to people, if they say like, hey, I'm not into fantasy, hey, that's all good.
Normally, I'm not either. This is the exception that proves the rule. For me in fantasy, I usually don't like it either, but these are different. These are, it's Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, buddy, so next week we are going back to original format.
Yeah.
Which means it's finally time after 3 weeks for you to choose a movie.
Okay.
So what are we going to do next week?
That's a great question. So I have an idea.
Okay.
Of what I want. Here's the thing.
Okay.
It's not on my list.
Okay.
But I was looking at my list and I saw one. I go, oh, that'd be cool. Oh, but this would be better. But it's not on my list.
Well, I mean, I technically did a movie that was not on the list.
That's true. I guess it's my turn then.
Okay.
So, great. Next week, we will be discussing Martin Scorsese's adaptation of Dennis Lehane's Shutter Island. Next week.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I've never seen this movie from start to finish.
Oh, right on. Okay.
I know the reveal.
Okay.
I know the big twist, but I've never actually seen it play out to the twist. And you know what, man? Like, it's Scorsese. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no to Scorsese. And
no shit.
This goes back to when we did Hugo. I feel like this is, he's so good at stretching his creativity. With Hugo making a kids film, and with Shutter Island making a horror thriller.
Yeah. Like sort of a whodunit noir.
Yeah.
Horror adjacent.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm stoked.
Cool.
I'm stoked. That's a good follow-up for what we've just been doing for the last 3 weeks.
I thought so. And we get some cool New England accents in this one. Yeah.
Now, is this before we close out, was this the first time Leo worked with Scorsese?
Oh no, not by any means. Leo.
It was The Departed.
Nope.
Oh, really?
Gangs of New York, I think, was the first one.
I fucking love Gangs in New York, dude. How could I forget
It was
that?
Gangs in New York, then it was The Aviator, and then maybe
And then it was The Departed.
The Departed after Aviator, yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, I can't believe I forgot about. Dude, hang on. I fucking love Gangs of New York.
Do you really?
So much. Yeah, legitimately. I love that film. That's another one I exposed Ashley to, and she was like, "Holy shit, this is so good." I'm like, right?
You know, it would make it. I mean, no offense, the movie would be perfect.
Okay.
If Cameron Diaz were a different actress, if they had cast someone else instead of Cameron Diaz, it would have been perfect. Because even Leo was sort of like weirdly cast, but he's fine. No, but of course everyone is being compared to Daniel Day-Lewis, and then
Oh yeah. Scorsese unfortunately gave everyone an unfair advantage in that movie, where they're having to go toe to toe with Daniel Day.
Yeah, Daniel Day.
That's unfair.
I agree, 100%. But don't worry, this time he just has to deal with Mark Ruffalo, and that's fine.
And Ben Kingsley,
and Big, of course, and Max von Sydow, and John Carroll Lynch, and Emily Mortimer, and anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, next week is Shutter Island. I'm really excited. Going off script, but who cares? There's no rules.
There's no rules. Awesome. Well, everyone, we hoped you enjoyed the last 3 weeks with us. Legitimately, I really hope y'all did.
Yeah.
And next week, let's return to format, and we will see you for Shutter Island.